I'm around the 3.5 year mark in my surfing journey and I have 3 boards in my quiver, a groveler, a daily driver and a performance shortboard. I recently took this quiver out with me on a 2-month surf trip in Indo and it made me realise a few things about it that I wanted to share in this video. But before we get into it, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about those boards. The groveler is basically a fish shape with a flat rocker and a pretty round nose with a square tail and 5 fin boxes. The daily driver is just a shorter, wider and thicker performance shortboard with a pretty wide tail block, and the last board is your standard performance shortboard with a medium rocker all throughout and a small squash tail. The main thing I realised on this trip is how overrated performance shortboards are for the average surfer like myself. Out of 60 days of surfing, I only rode this board 5 times. And I surfed head high waves and above maybe half the time I was there, which is when you would see most people at my level start bringing out the performance shapes. But I almost always went with the groveler instead. And every single one of the 5 times I did go with the performance shortboard, it just felt incredibly hard to surf. Not just different to my groveler, but straight up difficult and unforgiving. The best way I could describe it is that riding the performance shape always felt like I was going to work, whereas surfing my groveler felt like a holiday. So I very naturally gravitated towards the fun board because it just made me feel so much better about my surfing. And I know it's not just a feeling because several people who saw me on both told me I looked a lot better on the groveler. And it got me wondering whether or not the average surfer, who is often around the intermediate or early advanced stage, should even bother with the performance shortboard. Now bear in mind that everything I'm saying is based on how I feel and I'm only sharing my experience here. I am in no way claiming that I've discovered the holy truth and that it should apply to everyone else.
Oh, it's too deep. Holy.
But for me, after 2 months of surfing good waves every day, I'm left with the opinion that performance shortboards are not really suited to the average surfer, and the fact that most surfboard brands seem to be releasing a lot more performance shapes lately kind of corroborates that feeling. Even on the waves that you are seeing in this video, which were very good, I felt like the performance shortboard was not doing me any favour. It felt like the brakes were on the entire time and I couldn't really get the glide I was looking for. And I think it's because these boards are just not meant to glide. They want to be put on rail and driven from there and through turns. These boards are meant to give you more control in powerful waves, which can feel like the board is glued to the face somehow. That's something you want, obviously, in critical parts of the wave. But one thing I hadn't realized is just how critical waves need to be for such boards to really come alive. In my experience, it has to be at least overhead and really powerful. So this trip made me realize that the waves I thought would classify as solid for a performance shortboard are pretty far from the waves these boards are actually designed for. And in all honesty, I don't think I'm at a point in my surf progression where I'm comfortable enough in the type of waves these boards truly shine in to justify riding one whenever I get to surf waves like this. The truth is, powerful waves still scare me, and I would much rather have a more forgiving board under me, as I know it would give me a significant confidence boost over a performance shortboard. And having ridden my groveler almost all the time these past 2 months, even in waves comparable to this, my opinion is now that unless you have been surfing for 10 plus years or are surfing overhead and hollow waves on the regular, then a wider, flatter shape would probably make surfing a lot easier and more fun than a performance shape. Having said that, I do think this board has a place in my quiver, but I completely re-evaluated the type of conditions I need to see in order to decide that this is going to be the best choice for the day. I will now only ever take this board out if it's overhead and hollow. Basically, if I can potentially get barreled out there, then that's the board I want to pick, because I must say that it felt amazing in the tube.
Bagus. Okay.
All of the attributes that makes this board feel so weird when the wave flattens out or loses power also turn it into my best friend when I'm pulling in the tube. The rocker starts making sense as it perfectly matches the shape of the wave, and the amount of control then gives me the confidence boost I need to hold my line and try to make it to the exit. That's honestly the only time I ever felt good on this board. So for me, the takeaway from riding my front quiver in off-season end of 2 months is that my groveler could probably cover more than 2/3 of the conditions I surf at home, and a toned down daily driver would easily take care of the rest. I can't remember a single session at home where this board would have been the best choice. Mind you, I'm not from Osmo, and so waves I surf are mellower than what they are over there. I even only rode my daily driver twice during this trip because I think I just sized it wrong. The lack of volume ends up defeating the purpose of the gentler outline, which should give me plenty of natural speed. It just felt like I was sinking easily, just like I do on the performance shortboard. So I'm going to be looking for another model now that I have dialed in my volume range a little better, and I will be doing a review as soon as I get my hands on one. In my 2-year surf progression video, I talked about how I naturally went back up in volume after having gone down too fast and how everything felt a lot easier, and I feel like we are touching on the same subject here. The truth is, performance shortboards need pretty high technical skills to be ridden properly, and trying to surf one in average conditions might just slow your progression down more than anything. I know board design is a very intricate topic, and what might feel hard to me could feel easy for someone else because we all have different body types, different stances, different weight distributions and technique. It also heavily depends on your style, as some surfers tend to keep their board flat and play with releases like you would on a skateboard, while others naturally play with rail-to-rail transitions like you would on a snowboard, for example. Again, I am only sharing what feels good to me in hopes that some of you can resonate with it. And me personally, I feel like I naturally lean more towards the skateboard style. So for me, what feels good is a flatter rocker, giving me plenty of get up and go speed, as well as a lot of glide to make it through flat spots when I pick the wrong line, for example. I know a squarer, blockier tail feels better to me because it gives me more release off the top, as well as giving me more natural speed through mellow spots. What also feels good is more width, as it just makes the board so much more stable and gives me a lot of room for error when I'm going for snappy turns in the lip, which would feel very hazardous otherwise. And these attributes make it a lot easier for me to build up enough confidence to try new things out and expand my comfort zone. It also makes every session that much more enjoyable because I do not have to work as hard and end up failing a lot less often. Sure, my rail game might not be getting as sharp as if I was riding a different shape, but I'm having a hell of a lot more fun and I'm much more happy with my surfing because it suits my natural style a lot more. So I hope this video was somehow insightful for you and that you enjoyed this little rant. Let me know in the comments what has your experience been with performance shortboards and with board shapes in general. What style of surfing do you lean more towards and what type of board feels best to you? Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you guys in the next one.